good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jolene Wahiga. I am the head of trends and tours at WindowsWear. Welcome to our Thursday edition of WindowsWear Live. Today, we're taking a look at how brands are effectively taking action to inspire people to vote and inspire civic participation. So I don't think that there's anything that anyone domestically here in the United States is thinking about other than the election. The last day of which to vote is on November 3rd, on Tuesday. But it's very interesting to see what's been going on. I think the conversation is a lot louder this election than it was 4 years ago in terms of participation from retailers and brands on a global scale, not just, US based brands, but around the world. We're in a very high stakes moment, and it's going to be very fiercely fought, this US presidential election, which will be held on November 3rd. That is the last day to vote. The election is currently happening. And it's really prompting fashion labels and retailers to sort of cast aside their usual political reticence, for lack of a better word, and responding to both employees and to consumers who expect brands to get involved. And we have, new get out the vote platforms, right, are starting to win support from apparel companies that run the gamut from luxury houses to direct to consumer, right? So let's take a look at some brands that we think are really doing a phenomenal job of this and that are really sort of actively engaged. Saks is registering voters at its New York flagship online at the Saks.com. Warby Parker, Tory Burch. These are just some of the few that we'll go over. Ralph Lauren, right? Political engagement, of course, always the other side of this coin. While it is fantastic to get everyone engaged and everyone registered, it can bring risks for brands, right? You can polarize an audience or your consumer base one way or the other, right? But savvy customers are very quick to sniff out inauthentic or pandering messages. However, non-engagement just as much brings its own set of risks, right? The shift in attitude is being driven by social media and direct communications that social media drives between brands and consumers. And it wasn't long ago when brands and designers would absolutely not comment on anything about politics because they were afraid of alienating customers. By contrast, brands now fear that they'll be accused of complacency if they do not speak out. So the conversation is much more specific now, and I think much more engaging, right? This is an expectation that we have that everyone, it's the sort of feeling of all hands on deck right now, right? And plenty of retailers and brands are doing so and doing their part to increase voter turnout and really motivate people to get to the polls on November 3rd. Some, like Nordstrom and Birkenstock, have made Election Day a paid holiday for their employees to go vote, while others like Tory Burch and Vineyard Vines have come out with voting-themed merchandise, face masks, all kinds of things. And from releasing limited edition voting merchandise to giving their employees benefits for volunteering at the polls. Let's take a look at over 40 different brands that are really encouraging and stepping up in this conversation when it comes to the upcoming election here in the United States. So Saks Fifth Avenue, retailers and designers are really giving their brick and mortar retail spaces a brand new purpose, right? This in real life shopping experience is one that many of us haven't had since March because of the pandemic. And beyond the need to ensure people are registered, these initiatives really highlight how physical spaces can safely bring us together around important causes. For Saks Fifth Avenue, they've turned their New York City flagship store into a voter registration hub, complete with absentee ballots through a partnership with Headcount, right? They've also created an online portal for people to register, and they're giving all of their employees a paid holiday on Election Day. They're displaying QR codes that register customers to vote when scanned and utilizing their platform to foster voter accessibility. And to further increase voter awareness, Saks is using their Fifth Avenue windows to show the word vote, right? So they've really stepped up both from like a visual merchandising standpoint to all of the touch points when you walk into the store. They've really transformed the space in a way that's both friendly and engaging. Over at Bode, when it comes to its single retail outpost in Manhattan's Lower East Side and their studio, menswear brand Bode has forged this relationship with When We All Vote. Through their website, you can register. They can register voters, and they've trained their store employees on how the organization's voter portal actually works. As the designer told Vogue at the time, it's a very powerful privilege voting. It gives us the power to help change the world in which we live. And for us, it's a first step. Over at Coach in June, Tapestry owned Coach made their very first foray into politics when they announced a partnership with More Than a Vote, a nonprofit created earlier this year by LeBron James and other pro athletes aimed at combating voter suppression in the Black community. Coach has promised to mobilize its full resources, including employees, stores, and collaborators, to amplify the organization's mission. Our country is at a very unique moment in time where racial inequalities, specifically those affecting the Black community, have reached every corner of the national dialogue. And Coach really believes that American companies need to take responsibility to drive change. And this is the year of change. If ever we need change, 2020 is that moment. Over at Michael Kors, they are using the power of visual communication and merchandise to support causes that Michael Kors himself believes in, and one of those is to get out the vote. In the words of Michael Kors himself, he said, "We felt the best way to complement our message with every voice matters and that every vote counts was to add our support to the NAACP's Legal Defense Fund efforts." Over at Stuart Weitzman is releasing a limited edition boot called the 50/50 Vote Boot. The boot is an exclusive. They only sold 100 pairs. Most of them are already sold out. The boot came in 2 different color options, black on black or black on silver, which you can see here. And 100% of the net profits of the style are being donated to the organization I Am a Voter. Kith has converted their stores into voter registration hubs. So streetwear and sneaker retailer Kith announced on Instagram that they are closing each of their flagship stores for business today and converting them into voter registration hubs. Kith staff will be on site to help facilitate this process. Following a 2016 election where nearly half of registered voters did not cast a ballot, brands are really using their outreach to encourage voting with young people as 2020's election day nears, right? Kith's initiatives also follows Levi's voting campaign, which includes voting-themed t-shirts, a PSA video on the importance of voting, and a vow to include voter registration booths in select stores. Kith has brick-and-mortar stores in Miami, LA, as well as 2 locations in New York where voter turnout was just 57% in 2016. That was one of the lowest rates of all 50 states. That was devastating, right? And voting is the most powerful act we can do collectively to implement change and overturn the injustices experienced way too often in this country. So if you are not registered to vote and you plan to visit a Kith today in Soho, Brooklyn, Los Angeles, or Miami, they look forward to helping you become an instrument of change. At Foot Locker Incorporated has transformed more than 2,000 of their retail store spaces across the U.S. into voter registration sites to get young people inspired and prepared to vote. To align with National Voter Registration Day back in September, on September 22nd, the company had partnered with Rock the Vote to bring a digital voter registration option to every Foot Locker, Champs Sports, Foot Action, and East Bay store. Visitors of the stores or their websites, like footlocker.com/vote, can check if they are registered and can register if they are not, and they can sign up for election reminders. Foot Locker Incorporated is also providing flexible hours for their more than 30,000 employees to vote on Election Day. Over at Puma and Snipes are teaming to roll out kiosks at over 95 locations nationwide to help customers register to vote. At Doc Martens, they're teaming up with Turbo Vote on a co-branded website where customers can receive assistance on registering to vote and other voting-related questions. Steve Madden was one of the first major brands to encourage voter registration at their stores. They had partnered with Voto Latino on a campaign that started all the way back in March, through which shoppers could text a special code that was displayed at all of their brick and mortar locations and be directed to a voter registration website. Steve Madden is also closing their headquarters on November 3rd so employees can go to the polls and vote. At Warby Parker, they put HR codes all throughout their retail locations so that customers can easily access voting information from Vote 411 while they shop. Tom's is also pushing a similar campaign with vote.org across its website and all of their social media platforms. At Nordstrom has added QR codes to its curbside pickup orders in partnership with the National Urban League and When We All Vote. The codes lead to a Nordstrom and When We All Vote microsite where you can register, or you can simply double check for your status in a matter of minutes. And like Saks, Nordstrom has also installed Make Your Voice Heard windows in stores across the country in lieu of its usual mannequins dressed in sparkling new merchandise. And they will offer paid time off for their employees so that they can get to go and vote. At Dover Street Market, they recently added physical and digital touch points to their stores in New York and Los Angeles that allow shoppers to access information from When We All Vote, which includes apparel collaborations with Honey Dijon, Off-White, and Hood by Air. A Rose Schlossberg video also encourages the younger generation, and QR codes printed on every Dover Street Market receipt have a registration link to vote. Kirby Jean Raymond of Pure Moss announced that customers can now register to vote on his website, and all of proceeds from his Vote or Die for Real t-shirts will go to the nonprofit Rock the Vote. Brands and designers have been promoting these initiatives very, very heavily these past few weeks as we get into the final leg of this election. And this week, the attention will shift and focus to actually getting people physically to the polls, unless you're voting absentee, because the deadline for that to register for that was on October 27th. At this point, if you are voting absentee, you must, in order to ensure that your vote is counted, get it there in person to a polling station or to a drop box. Over at Bloomingdale's has launched Vote campaign created by director and producer Alan Hughes, which benefits When We All Vote. It is a partnership with Warner Media. The campaign is centering around limited edition face masks that were created by Mr. Hughes. Bloomingdale's is selling the masks and packets of two masks for $18, $10 of which goes directly to When We All Vote. Kenneth Cole and their Make a Statement campaign. Make a Statement has been working with artists for its website and social media platforms to come up with creative artwork supporting the campaign. The brand is very active on Instagram, and they're sharing reasons why we should all vote, as well as installing statements into all of their New York stores. Over at J. Crew, they're rewarding young shoppers and voters. The brand announced via their social media channels that they will offer 20% off of a purchase made in stores to customers who bring in their I voted stickers. At Rachel Comey, fashion designer Rachel Comey has invited voters to meet outside of her Soho store in New York City to board a bus and canvass swing districts, right? So Comey has teamed up with Swing Left and Downtown for Democracy as well, in hopes of pushing those undecided voters to vote Democratic. At Gap, Old Navy, Banana Republic, Aeropostale, and Intermix, we're all seeing civic engagement being pushed by all of these brands. Gap Inc. is bringing voting fashion to the masses. Gap Inc.'s popular mass retailer, Old Navy, is releasing a Vote t-shirt collection in adult and children's sizes. And in keeping with the current times, Old Navy is also releasing Stars and Stripes themed sets of face masks for adults. At Banana Republic, they're also releasing vote masks, and Intermix, their boutiques, which there are 32 of, you can now register to vote at their locations. Gap Inc. is also encouraging civic engagement and encourages all of their consumers and customers to make a plan to vote today. Again, early voting is now active, and the last day to vote is on Election Day, November 3rd. Over at H&M and COS, both under the umbrella of H&M, which are owned by the H&M Group, they've rolled out their in-store signage in the United States to allow shoppers to check their registration status, and have forged partnerships with the ACLU to share information and resources about voting. At Levi's, the latest development, Levi's recently launched a public information campaign to encourage voter participation. Levi's really took issue with really took the issue of voter confusion head on, right? Oftentimes, the reason why people stay home is because they feel overwhelmed by the process, or they're not sure how to get started. And particularly for the very young people who are voting for the first time, or very old people who have perhaps maybe let their registration lapse, right? Election day will, of course, not go perfectly, but don't be discouraged. There's always obstacles. Vote anyway, and make sure that you are registered. For this new campaign, Levi's has tapped model Hailey Bieber and filmmaker Olga Egbanu to deliver this really striking public service announcement on YouTube in an effort to reach 70 million eligible young voters. Artist Jasmine Williams and photographer Deniba Aduyan also collaborated on the project. And the PSA doesn't simply focus on who will become president. It actually emphasizes state and local elections, including sheriffs, district attorneys, and thousands of other elected offices that directly impact the lives of individuals. So keep in mind when you are voting that you are also voting down ballot for all of your representatives. And those races are a lot more intimately involved with your everyday life on a local level, more so than a national level, right? And this message is all about controlling your destiny for Levi's. The PSA goes beyond sort of exhorting individuals to vote or encouraging. It really encourages young people, and really all people, to talk about the process of voting and to really inspire and use their voice and their platforms to inspire others to vote. For Patagonia is urging everyone to vote, and their shops and stores will be closed in order to give employees a chance to do exactly that. They're giving all of their employees paid time off on November 3rd. On their website, they have an election page with information about this year's election and why it is such a big deal to them as a company, and why it should be a big deal to every American. On this page, users can also find different ways to get started voting, highlighting for different kinds of highlights for climate leaders in the election, broken down by state, and Senate races that will be very important to watch. And for Patagonia, who are leaders in the sustainability movement, this is very, very important. And the idea of climate change is something that they always have at the core DNA of their brand. So they really put their money where their mouth is, in my opinion, when it comes to engagement, whether it's through sustainability initiatives or really getting people civically engaged. In order for their message about this election to come across, Patagonia has placed a statement on the back of their clothing tags and shorts that reads, quote unquote, "Vote the assholes out," right? This tag is in reference to the politicians who deny climate change. And if you remember in 2017 or 2018, when corporations were given huge tax breaks by the Trump administration, Patagonia actually took their tax break that they received and donated it right back to environmental agencies. So they are definitely a politically minded brand and have a lot to say on the matter. So I'm not surprised that they're being very crass with their tags, or that they're being very proactive in this conversation. And this marketing decision is not a promoted one, but it is left for the world to discover on its own. And it did, in fact, go viral on social media when this campaign came out. Over at Tory Burch is encouraging both employees of Tory Burch and customers alike to get out the vote this election season, Beyond merchandise, in which Tory has already spelled out a stylish vote T, right? Tory's encouraging voting by shaking things up on election day at her stores and even their HQ and their offices. Stores and offices for Tory Burch will be closed on election day to ensure that everyone who is eligible has the opportunity to vote. Additionally, Tory Burch will be giving a paid day off to employees who volunteer as poll workers. Poll workers are in need, especially this year. Oftentimes, the average age of a poll worker is 73, right? So this is a demographic that is at risk for COVID-19, which is very much still present and in its third wave here in the United States. So Tory Burch really wanted to engage young people to take the reins and volunteer as a poll worker, right? Election day will only go as smoothly as we let it. So getting young people out there who are a lot healthier, who are not at risk for catching COVID-19, she is actively supporting that those people get out there and help make this process run smoothly. Tory Burch is glad to use her platform, of course, to help encourage voting during this election and wants to do her part to stop voter suppression and really help staff the polls this election season. The push to support employees with voting shows signs of being this very sort of long-term shift in the United States, even outside of fashion, right? There is an increasing support for bills introduced in Congress to make Election Day a national holiday, as it was for much of the 19th century when the US voter participation peaked at 80%, right? So there's certainly a push to make this a federal holiday. And after deciding to make the day a paid holiday and closing its corporate offices, Ralph Lauren, for instance, last week opted in the addition to close its Greensboro, North Carolina distribution center as well on Election Day. Any employees who must work will receive holiday pay as well as time off to vote. Louis Vuitton opened their spring 2021 show with a very important message, and that was simply VOTE, get out and vote. Over at Urban Outfitters, I Am a Voter has collaborated with Urban Outfitters to create a DIY t-shirt. The ballot box that you see pictured on the right includes a t-shirt printed with the election's date and a woven I voted stick-on label and a Sharpie so that each buyer can customize their own t-shirt. The proceeds of this kit will go towards voter registration and efforts to vote within minority communities. And when opening the ballot box, the customer is met with the sound of a bald eagle calling from a sound module, making a very patriotic and kitschy experience, right? Inside of the box, there are detailed instructions on how to register to vote when the time comes. Obviously, these started back in September, being launched. The t-shirt included in the box offers a specific place to put your I voted sticker and the label at the hemline where voters can use the marker to write a little about their voting experience. The retail industry has not only stepped up, but so have the beauty brands, right? It's not just the fashion brands or the clothing brands, but many beauty brands and beauty labels are encouraging their customers to vote with limited edition products and merchandise. Other big name beauty brands are giving their employees paid time off or volunteering as poll workers. On November 3rd, they're being incentivized as well. Over at the Lip Bar, former First Lady Michelle Obama teamed up with the Lip Bar for a limited edition red lipstick. There were only 500 units that were created of the matte liquid shade. It was called Boss Voter, all of which have sold out. 40% of the proceeds are were donated to When We All Vote, the nonpartisan organization that promotes voter turnout. And their goal was to make your makeup routine as easy as possible so you can spend time on other things that are more important. And for right now, and for us in the US, that's politics and that is voting. Biden Beauty, David Yee, who is the founder of men's grooming site Very Good Light, and his team are behind the latest beauty venture. They want you to beat your face and beat Donald Trump. The limited time fashion and beauty brand Biden Beauty is building hype around voting blue and voting for Biden. Among its Biden-themed products are tote bags, pins, stickers, hoodies, and blue makeup sponges. They are not affiliated with the Biden campaign or the Democratic National Committee, but it says that 100% of the Biden Beauty proceeds will be directly donated to the Biden Victory Fund. Over at Starface, more and more young people are looking to their brands to spend money, or rather looking to the brands they spend money at to be active in issues and causes that are very important to them. And for vegan skincare brand Starface, they teamed up with Alliance for Youth Action to release a limited set of Vote acne patches. The brand will donate $10,000 to the organization, which promotes voter education and registration amongst young people and first-time voters. At ELF, the drugstore brand ELF joined other major companies such as Gap and Nike in its pledge to participate in the Time to Vote movement. The initiative encourages companies to offer employees paid time off to vote on election day and to make a day without meetings so that people don't feel obligated to be at meetings and maybe miss their window or opportunity to vote. Milk Makeup, the paraben and cruelty-free brand, is urging on their social media platform to vote, and they've been doing this since July. Its efforts started with their hashtag Register a Friend Day. Milk Makeup is working with I Am a Voter, which is a nonpartisan movement for voting and civic engagement, to help its customers come up with a voting plan and to register to vote. At Uma Beauty, the founder and CEO, Sharon Cutter, launched the hashtag Pull Up or Shut Up campaign back in June to urge beauty companies to publicly share the number of Black and people of color employees that they have at their organizations and working specifically in leadership roles. Now the brand is ushering in a new campaign, hashtag Rise Up, Speak Up, which is selling limited edition face masks to encourage people to make their voice heard and vote. The masks are in collaboration with designer Adolfo Sanchez. And finally, at Instagram giant beauty brand Glossier has created its very own set of I'm voting stickers that come packed in all of their US orders through Election Day. Customers who purchase from the brand can also expect to receive voter registration links and resources every time they check the status of their order shipment. The beauty brand has also made the Time to Vote pledge. Other brands that are being civically engaged, here you can see photographed, you can see that Glossier sticker that was included in all of their orders and their shipments. Other brands that have really sort of hit the gas on voter education and voter inspiration, right? We're seeing Airbnb. Airbnb has its own microsite that provides users the ability to check their voter registration and get resources on how to register and vote by mail. The online rental marketplace is calling this their Civic Action Center, and it is sharing with its users and all of their hosts and superhosts. Airbnb is also partnering with nonpartisan organizations like Vote.org to get out the word and give employees paid time off to vote for this election. Given the challenges created by the COVID-19 pandemic, it's really more important than ever that voters have the information and the resources that they need to ensure that their voices are heard on this upcoming election. Their Civic Action Center will help them reach millions who use Airbnb every day and provide them with the tools that they need to exercise their right to vote on November 3rd. At Spotify has a nonpartisan campaign that it launched back in September, on September 9th. It's called Play Your Part. It focused on getting young voters to the polls, especially focusing on first-time voters. The music streaming app has partnered with musicians and influencers like Chloe and Halle, Conan Gray, Aliana Castillo, and King Princess to guide listeners to its voting booth hub, which provides resources to learn more on how to vote. For Snapchat, last week, the platform rolled out a number of different voting tools, which include a way for users to vote directly from within their app through a partnership with TurboVote. The voter guide with information from the NAACP, Ballot Ready, and other nonprofits surfaces when users search for topics in the app, such as vote by mail or voter registration. And a new voter portal lives in each user's profile, which can serve as a checklist for what they need to do to register to vote. These resources will remain for the foreseeable future, according to Snapchat. And when users turn 18, if they are under 18, they will get a prompt that will remind them to register to vote. So this is a very long-term initiative. Whether you are, 17 years old still on November 3rd, if after that you turn 18 years old, you are ready to vote 2 years from now in the midterm elections, right? So they really want to engage young people who both have not voted yet because they're too young or perhaps are ineligible as of now, and engage to vote for the next election as well. The work is not done November 3rd. The app has introduced new filters and vote stickers, of course, that it's sharing across all of social media. And Snapchat, which claims that at least 75% of their users are between the ages of 13 to 34 years old. They say that more than 475 people have registered to vote as of September when they started the initiative. So it is absolutely working. Over at Absolute Vodka, recently the alcohol brand had launched their campaign, Drink Responsibly, #vote responsibly, which encourages voters to head to the polls this November. At Uber, just like the Uber app, the food delivery version allows you to register to vote through the app before you even order food or even use the app. Then on October 24th, just this past week when early voting started, official early voting day through November 3rd, which is the final day to vote. Uber Eats trucks are going to be going to polling cities around the United States. It's going to 25 cities from Phoenix, Los Angeles, DC, Miami, Tampa, Orlando, Ann Arbor, Louisville, Las Vegas, New York City, Philly, Charleston, Houston, Milwaukee, Nashville, 25 cities around the U.S. The Uber Eats trucks from Pizza to the Polls will hand out free food for people waiting in line to vote, along with poll workers and other workers and volunteers during the election. This is really important. Oftentimes when people don't go vote the day of, perhaps it's because of a medical issue. Maybe you're diabetic and you know that you're going to need to be able to eat within waiting for a long line of 4 to 6 hours. So making sure that resources and people are nourished, that they have water, that they have food readily available. If you're standing on a line for 6 hours and standing all day, this is fantastic. Pizza to the Polls can be sent to any polling station in the U.S. You just have to reach them at Twitter, and they will send out pizza to polling stations in your city. You do have to provide documentation, meaning any form of social media link that shows that there are people actively waiting at the polls, and they will send pizza there. I actually did this earlier this week. I sent pizza to the polls. It's a fantastic thing that you can do for your community. You can also donate to send pizza. I know that Ariana Grande earlier this week sent pizza to Georgia, to people in Georgia, which of course is a battleground state, in Atlanta specifically, where lines were upwards of 8 to 10 hours long. Over at Chipotle, they've created an initiative called Chivotle. Chipotle has come out with their merchandise, their t-shirts that say Chivotle on them, and they have their signature pepper on the sleeve. The pepper is actually a barcode which you can scan to register to vote, making it easy for people to register. Chipotle is also launching a voting initiative as part of its newly launched fashion collective, Chipotle Goods. The fast food chain realizes that the Chivotle t-shirt went on sale. They released it on September 30th. A white t-shirt, you can see it pictured here, featuring the company's logo. It has a scannable QR code in the shape of the pepper, and it directs people to their website to register to vote. The t-shirts are available for $11.03, and they are on the Chipotle Goods website. And finally, over at Lyft, another a big roadblock to voter suppression and to people not being able to get to the polls is transportation, physically getting there, whether that's because of ADA compliance or you don't have the financial means, it's not within walking distance, whatever that may be, Lyft has got your back. There is just on average, there is an estimated 15 million eligible voters that do not have access to get where they need to get to vote. And in order to combat this barrier to vote, Lyft is offering 50% off of one ride to the polling stations, right? So you can get there and then figure out a way in which you can get back. They've also partnered up with many other organizations to distribute free and discounted rides where reliable and affordable transportation is not readily available. So do check your local transportation. Check with your busing systems, your subway systems, if you are in a city where that is a viable transportation method for you. Check Uber and Lyft and all of the rideshare services, because they are going to be having specials that are either heavily discounted or free for certain neighborhoods. Nike has partnered with Lyft to offer 50% off of rides to voters starting Friday, October 23rd. That is tomorrow. Or rather, that was last week. So last Friday through Election Day in Atlanta, Memphis, Chicago, Baltimore, Houston, Milwaukee, Miami, and Portland. So if you live in those cities, know that you can go through Lyft and get 50% off of your Lyft. All you need to do is use the code Nike2020 for up to $10 off. That's Nike, 2020. And that does it for our, edition of WindowsWear Live, how brands are supporting partnerships and civic engagement. Again, I think if you take nothing away from all of this, if you are listening in from the United States and you are registered, hopefully this has inspired you to participate. Your vote is your right. It is not a privilege. It is an American right. So please get out there and exercise that right today, tomorrow, any day through November 3rd. If you have any questions, any questions, any comments, please feel free to, of course, submit those via the chat features and all of our social media platforms in which we are currently streaming live. That's Instagram Live, Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, and Zoom. I'm going to go ahead and see if there are any questions. In the meantime, please go ahead and go through, or rather this coming Monday, we are going to be having our WindowsWear live session again. So this Monday at 3 p.m. This Monday at 4 p.m. we're going to be having our weekly WindowsWear live. We're going to be going through our retail news. So tune in for that. And I see that there are no questions, but thank you so much for joining us. And again, please get out there and vote if you are eligible, if you are in the United States. Show us your vote stickers, tag us in your vote selfies. We want to see your participation. Please enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Stay healthy and stay safe, and get out there and vote.